Good morning, folks, and welcome to the latest instalment of John Answers Questions, in which we, the proletarian elites, in our terrible uninsulated weatherboard houses, mock the true heroes of Australia, who are the millionaires working for Rupert Murdoch. We do this via a critical analysis of Australia's leading newspaper, the Sunday Telegraph. Takes about half an hour, settle in, maybe get a cup of coffee. Some people do seem to enjoy watching this all the way through. I hope you do too. If you do please hit the like button and share it with friends who might also enjoy it. Don't share it with friends who don't enjoy it. I don't like their comments. Okay, what do we... let's try and sit appropriately. Here we go. What do we got? Chippendale, 8 p.m. Saturday. Rocker Daniel Johns swaggers out of a notorious bondage dungeon after a 2-week bender. And then they've called it King of the Castle with a capital K for castle. Now, they put this directly over a Woolworths strap. Every Woolworths own brand product is free of artificial colours and flavours. That's why I pick Woolies. I'm not sure Woolies are going to appreciate that placement. So there's a look at the decrepit Mr. Johns. And I say, what is the point of being a rock star if one can't go on a 2-week bender and emerge from a bondage dungeon? It's not quite a dressing gown, but it looks a bit like one. I think his makeup's quite well done, all things considered, but he's certainly quite puffy around the eyes there. I'm digging the bleach job. What do you reckon? Go that. Get that. Oh no, he's dark on the beard, so I'd have to dye. Anyway, I don't think I've got it in me anymore. those days are behind us. He says wistfully. That's it. We've also got the Warners of London, the Wags on tour. That's the wives and girlfriends of the Wags. Wife and girlfriends. Capital S on Wags is a bit misplaced, but who am I to correct cricket families? The stellar glossy lift out, which sometimes I don't think we get, is Janet at 53. Although for the average Sunday Telegraph reader, 53 is a bit spring chickeny, really, isn't it? Let's get cracking. Okay, so first 2 pages are ads for tourism in Japan, mostly featuring geishas. Like, literally, one, there's another one, there's the back of one. Geishas and pagodas. Look, they know their business selling the ads. I think it's a bit sad that a rich and varied culture of a nation of 130 million people gets some bullet trains maybe, or a bit of anime, or the food. Something Japanese cuisine has something to offer the world. I would be one of those. But no, women with a hint of sex work to them in funny makeup and pagodas. 14-day tour. Right, Sally's first interview since retiring. World champion hurdler Sally Pearson, her next hurdle. She's got 2 dogs. One looks like a rescue greyhound, one looks like a golden retriever. Starting a family is her next step for her and her husband Kieran after her shock retirement from athletics. I wish her all the best. Evil Ivan's hospital pick drama. A pharmacist sparked a security scare at Prince of Wales Hospital after allegedly taking photographs on a mobile phone near the inmate-only annex where notorious backpack killer Ivan Milat is being treated. It was initially believed the pharmacist had been hoping to take a photograph of Milat, who's in the advanced stages of cancer. Would be a very valuable photo, probably purchased by this newspaper. Alright, so all we've got is, basically it's an excuse to talk about Milat. Authorities are investigating. Oh, sorry, I've skipped mixed picks in which the editor tells us what he thinks the best things in his newspaper are. And we find every week that for some reason these picks are the most lucrative advertising sections of the paper. Not necessarily interesting or useful. It's a funny correlation. Why could that be? Alright, so number 1 is read the Glossy magazine. There's a story about Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson's 53 and she's never felt so young. I find that very hard to believe, but if you're selling newspapers to geriatrics, maybe it's... Has that even hope for them? Body and Soul, 5 things your nether regions are trying to tell you. Tempted to tweak. Alright. The Young Archies, Young Archibald Prize. I guess they're hoping that the families of the entrants will buy the newspaper. Escape, your ultimate travel bucket list. Yeah, I need that from the Sunday Telegraph. Rick Stein, everyone's favourite adopted Australian chef on our delicious Harvey Norman Produce Awards. Wow, so celebrity chef endorsement for a sponsored Produce Awards. There's some journalism for you. And Whistle While You Work, teen referees are hot property. Oh, we own 7 and 8. Right, how Montana Jackson battled a brain tumour and won. Cute baby with a plug up her nose. And then the 7-day TV guide has made it in here, where, I mean, literally I was flicking through TV trying to find the football last night, and there are all these old movies on, some okay movies that I wouldn't have minded watching if I happened to know they were on and put them on at the right time, and instead of just streaming what I want when I want. Yeah, it's crazy that we're running these high-power broadcasting towers and blasting through the airwaves all this content that no one in particular is watching or wants or needs, solely for the benefit of a tiny section of the population who haven't got the internet yet. And frankly, internet really should be a human right where there's a government funded baseband option. And then you can get into some arguments about how much we punish them for taking that. But access to internet really is actually really important for just basic things like accessing government services and information. Moving on. Okay, page 7. We've got Mr. Johns. He's out of the dungeon. Fallen rock star makes fetish club home. All right, so the fetish club is called the Castle with a K, and apparently had a marathon 12-hour lock-in session at the club, which specialises in brown showers and adult babies. Fellow guests have lifted the lid on him. Apparently they're talking about him because his behaviour has reached the point of unacceptable. The other guests are uncomfortable when he's around, which is common in that scene, particularly when you think you're a rock star. Patrons and staff are fed up. Give him a few too many drinks and he loses his temper. Full of venom and anger, and it all comes out. Apparently when he's not at the castle, he's at the Surrey Hills watering hole low 302, where he has a private room where he can do as he pleases. So I assume the royalties from the music are still paying for all this. He surrounds himself with hangers-on and enablers. Yeah. It's normal. The party never ends for him. Johns was last linked to Michelle Leslie, the model who was arrested in Bali in 2005, charged with carrying 2 suspected ecstasy tablets in her handbag. That's a really stupid number of tablets to carry. Just enough to get in trouble, not enough to be useful at a party. Leslie is now a successful interior designer and a businesswoman. Probably doesn't have time to hang out in a low 302 all the time. Aussie tourist rampage. Bali. Footage out of Bali shows an Australian tourist kicking a man off a speeding motorbike before rolling onto the bonnet of a moving car. Oh, Channel 7's got it. Oh, it's in Kuta. Who would have thought that sort of thing would happen in Kuta? Tourist is dressed in a white t-shirt and brown shorts. That's all of them. The 26-year-old from South Australia, who I won't name, but the paper does, was hospitalised and will undergo psychiatric testing. Alright, the Northern Beaches Hospital's been killing people with crappy procedures. Desal plant pumps it up. Sydney's desalination plant will be expanded to twice its current capacity, under plans to cope with the current water crisis. I hope they put one out in Walgett so the millionaire basketball players don't have to fund their water. I think this has gone on long enough without the intervention of coffee. So Sydney's dam levels are plummeting. Thankfully, they did build a huge desalination plant in the last crisis. Everyone says, oh, they're incredibly energy intensive. They are, but on the other hand, in times when a desalination plant is needed, solar power is often readily available and very cheap. So keep building more solar. It'll run your desal. Problem solved. Well done, humans and technology. Very vulnerable to terrorism, so you still need your dams. Cop pedophiles blunder. I know McAuliffe every now and then does a listing of the Telegraph's worst headlines, and I hope that makes it in there. Some pedophiles were taken off the child protection register too early, while others failed to be registered at all in a series of police blunders, putting children in danger. In my limited experience with government records, which is not completely limited, I find these things are never, ever as perfect as people would like to think they are. Just because they're done as a best effort, and hard cases get difficult to categorise. And while you're waiting for someone to make a ruling and categorise that, are they not on the register? Are they on the register? I'm just saying these things are actually much harder. And then someone says, "Oh, we've achieved 20%," or "Oh, 100% compliance with blah," and it's just harder than that. Life's complicated. What can we say? Right, Amy Harris has a story, an exclusive, about Alexander Bertrand, who's in the ABC's Les Norton show. So it's basically a plug for the ABC's Les Norton show, which is a Robertisation of Robert G. Barrett's books, which from my memory were mostly big in the 80s with shockable elderly aunts wanting to know what the youth were up to. So perfect for the ABC. Shame they got there 40 years too late. Yes, there's also an undercurrent of good honest country folk being morally and physically superior to city folk, which gets lapped up in certain quarters. Right, the Sunday Telly is cleaned up at the Kennedy Awards, picking up a swag of trophies for journalistic excellence. This is ironic. Jack Morfitt won an outstanding reporting on the environment for setting the national agenda with his coverage of the most severe drought in New South Wales history, because we often note there's not much about the environment in this paper, except how farmers mysteriously don't have water for some reason that's got nothing to do with the coal industry, who is never mentioned. Candid camera on feral killers. Linda Silmalis is talking about feral cats again. Nothing new there. Bullying, harassment and dysfunction in the state's top hospitals. We confronted at a meeting between the medical colleges and New South Wales Health Minister Brad Hazzard. They're working too hard, they're underfunded. No one plans to fix that, so why not have a meeting? So Pell Letter Probe, astonishingly, this is 3 paragraphs down the bottom of page 13. Authorities are investigating whether a letter circulating online, apparently written by disgraced Cardinal George Pell to supporters, breaks prison rules. A man charged over gun parts in the mail. A man from Sydney's north has been charged after allegedly importing gun parts disguised as car parts from the US. 46-year-old was arrested on Friday after he stepped off a plane at Sydney Airport from China. Sounds like a real wheeler dealer, doesn't it? They intercepted 3 parcels imported from the US that were labelled as car parts but actually contained firearms pieces. 2 barrels and a frame for a Sig Sauer handgun. That's a nice gun. And lower receivers for AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. Then 2 triggers and an upper receiver. So, I mean, the point is that if you were of a mind to, and the law wasn't sharp to it, you could easily order a bunch of parts individually that may not trigger the legal definition of a gun. In the US, they tend to work as the receiver is the gun, and the rest of it is just accessories. But, he's importing receivers, so just call that the gun. Right, wags love it up in sunny London. We have lots of pictures of attractive wives and girlfriends of cricket players doing attractive things. Oh, look, actually there's no alcohol in shot, but they definitely look like they're in places where the alcohol is just out of shot. Great. I hope they have a fun time. Hope the team wins. Breath testing to diagnose cancers. A simple breathalyzer test may soon be all it takes to diagnose diabetes, asthma, and even certain cancers. Gladys faces a revolt. New South Wales an upcoming New South Wales Liberal gathering with angry party members to demand the leader explain her sneaky support for an abortion bill put up by a hairy-assed independent. I've never had a lot of time for Gladys Berejiklian, but I've got to say she's surprised me with her courage and willingness to take this one on and push it through. And good on her. And those Liberals can they can go eat something. Right, so control chaos or a total cluster as Liberals brawl over abortion. The Premier's backers say she knows what she's doing. Linda Silmalis reports, it's been a nightmare fortnight for Gladys, or has it? Labor's in such a shambles in New South Wales that there probably are some votes in the centre. But whether they're going to join the party and back her in the faction, the Liberal Party doesn't have factions, factional brawling. We'll see. Good luck to her. Hopefully she does some other good things that don't just relate to women. That'd be nice. So there's a long interview with Ben Gilmore, who's a paramedic, talking about people killing themselves at the Gap, which is certainly a hot spot for it. Annika Smethurst gives us claims sent to Watchdog Anti-corruption investigators have been asked to investigate the New South Wales Electoral Commission for registering One Nation amid claims the party signed up members who hadn't paid to join. 1 year after his spectacular falling out with One Nation, former New South Wales Senator Brian Burston has ramped up his fight against Pauline Hanson by submitting new documents to the New South Wales ICAC alleging corrupt conduct. Pauline, why can't you get the help? Now, Harvey Norman's got 2 pages of ads. $7.99 for a Fujitsu reverse cycle inverter split system air conditioner with installation for $4.99. It's a very cheap way to very efficiently heat a house, which I'm very jealous of because I have to own $1 million house before I can buy a really cheap, really good heating system. There's a theory of economic injustice wrapped up in that, isn't there? Facebook in a new privacy scandal. Remember that News Limited loves crapping on Facebook and hope that everyone will use News Limited instead. We will not. This is the biometric stuff, which comes down to hashtags of face pictures, doesn't it? And they do encourage us to take pictures of our faces on Facebook. Barnaby is sorry for tirade at mum. A grieving mother who helped campaign for medicinal cannabis claims she was sworn at and verbally abused by former Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce at an event she had been invited to. No, she invited him to. Mr. Joyce denied swearing at Lucy Haslam, but told the Sunday Telegraph he did tell her she did not have a mortgage on grief. Mr. Joyce arrived late, but Miss Haslam approached him and thanked him for coming. I said, thanks for coming, and he looked at me and let fly. He said, I don't have time to be at your effing film, Lucy. I went, wow, Barnaby, you don't have to be here, just go. Mr. Joyce, who apparently refused to leave, told attendee he gets furious at suggestions marijuana offers cancer sufferers some miracle elixir. He later apologised to Ms. Haslam if there is hurt there. I don't know, Barnaby, maybe let the people actually dying of the cancer decide how they want to ameliorate their suffering instead of you and your dodgy Catholic mates when they step away from fiddling kids. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up, could you? A father has revealed he had a gut feeling something was wrong the day before a female jihadist who was staying in his house tried to kill him as he slept next to his 5-year-old daughter, which does raise the question why he's sleeping next to his 5-year-old daughter. Roger Singer-Revolu thought he was taking an ordinary international student sent to him by the Australian Homestay Network until he woke up as she screamed Allahu Akbar and plunged a knife into his neck with such force she fractured his spine. By some miracle, he was not killed. I had a gut feeling, he said. All she was concerned about was getting the Wi-Fi code. She spent the whole night on her phone. Before the attack, she bought a pair of night vision goggles and researched how can you tell if someone is in a deep sleep on Google. A search of her room later revealed jihadi magazines that include articles on how to make and plant a bomb and how to use common household items to inflict carnage. She became radicalised in 2013. Australians should be scared, knowing this did not stop her from obtaining a visa or entering the country. Our system has failed, he said. Certainly failed him, I'll give him that. It boggles the mind that having successfully infiltrated Australia and found a place to stay, that was as good as she was getting with a mission, was stabbing the one dude who was showing her hospitality in the neck. It's just a certain loss of nerve. It's a very odd story. As an interesting little data point for you. Put that down, Australian Homestay Network. Stay away from that, I recommend. Elderly man's been robbed on the street. How much for your son? Stranger asked terrified mum as he tried to snatch child. The words were uttered by a stranger who tried to grab 4-year-old Cruz from his mum, Amy, in the car park of Richmond Marketplace in Sydney's West. Weird story. The fact the husband can't be named for legal reasons makes me wonder if this is a genuine stranger danger or part of a wider story. Here's a classic headline for the ages. Sky's the limit for new top cop pilot. Sky's the limit for a pilot. Gosh, geniuses at work. An exclusive for Ava Benny Morrison. It's just a PR piece put up by the cops. I mean, I'm thrilled that the pilot's got a face in the paper, but could be talking about climate change or homelessness or Andrew Hastie trying to conflate China with Nazi Germany. Right, hammered by fire and ice. There's it's a cold weekend and there's bushfires. No mention of climate change. Elderly locked out of the NDIS. Senior citizens demanding an end to the age limit on the National Disability Insurance Scheme. Yeah, there ain't no money for that, guys. Right, so the Telegraph's John Fordham is talking about how much Billy Joel is his great mate. So John Fordham, when he was having cancer treatment, listened to Billy Joel non-stop, and news of this just happened to reach Billy Joel. The dark workings of PR going on there, I reckon. Billy's thrilled that he could help, which is nice. I mean, yeah, I too love Billy Joel. Well, the man seems okay. I'm quite a fan of the music, as, that's not a controversial or unusual opinion, is it? And I'm, thrilled if John Fordham's doing well with his cancer and has inspired Billy Joel, now 70. Yeah. Cool story, bro. Now we come to The Source, where we get our political gossip from Annika Smethurst, Linda Silmalis, and Miranda Wood. The three girls who would have bullied you in high school. Right, so New South Wales state MPs are writing not particularly funny things to each other about the gym in Parliament House. It does include a picture of a barre instructor, akimbo, which... Oh, there's the Stella magazine falling out. I think that's the reason that story's made it in there, because their emails aren't particularly funny, I can tell you. So apparently Julie Bishop's dining with the Turnbulls. Right, we're reporting on what's on the Parliament House notice board. Some astrologers managed to get his poster up there. So Jim Molan's looking to try and fill Arthur Sinodinos' spot. Peter Hendy's having a crack. And Warren Mundine, given... I don't like Jim Molan. I don't agree with his politics. I think the way he conducts himself is not to my taste, but the man did get more personal votes than anyone's ever got in an Australian Senate race. That should count for something, you'd think. Sue Dunleavy has some dodgy medical survey by Headspace. I've got a lot of respect for Headspace, but I question whether their surveys are talking up their own book. Today's young people are even more stressed than their counterparts who are facing death in the trenches of World War I, and experts are blaming social media. The late, great Keith Miller said when asked if he was stressed playing cricket, he said stress is a Messerschmitt up your ass. I don't believe it. They might be reporting in their surveys, but no one was running the same survey on troops in World War I, were they? What a crock of crap. How does that get reported? And Headspace should know better than to do crap like that. Kids are being starved of food allergy tests, but forced to wait as long as 2 years. Well, good reporting. Sort that out. I always hate when governments fund things with, we'll give $20 million. And it's like, how much does the problem actually need? Who knows? Probably not that much. Either it's too much or it's too little. The chances of being just right. It's not how we budget though, isn't it? Drought-stricken farmers forced off their land will be given free training to expand their job options. I'm sure they'll be thrilled about that. This is farmers and farmhands hunting for off-farm income. It's what, the rest of us call just a second job. Get on your bike and do some Deliveroo. And of course, businesses in those rural regions are being forced to cut staff because of declining activity. I'm not sure what upskilling is going to do except keeping them off the streets while they do the training courses. Great. Teen referees whistling up the big bucks. Teenagers are signing up to become footy referees because they can make more money blowing a whistle than flipping burgers or bagging groceries. There's always the possibility of earning as much as $300,000 if they become an NRL referee. Well, yeah. I've got to say, $100 to referee an A-grade game is not a great hourly rate. The game itself's 2 hours. You got to get there. You got to get dressed. You got to go. Not bad as a side hustle for a high schooler, but you wouldn't want to be trying to be paying the rent with that, would you? So we've got base jumper Heather Swan. I hope that doesn't end badly. It often does for base jumpers. Story about PayPals. Into the sport. Tiger Woods. Injury clouder his Melbourne appearance. God forbid golf fans might not be able to see Tiger. Horse racing. 27 travel experiences you'll never forget. You're not going to go on them all, are you? Body and Soul. Very glossy lift out for subscribing to The Telegraph, which is slightly peculiar to see in the paper. I guess they're going for people who've bought it on a Sunday morning for brunch in a cafe. Oh, and we've also got kidsnews.com.au if you want to raise a complete dick bag. I gotta say, I spent a lot of my 20s unlearning the truths that the Telegraph had taught me. And just by virtue of, travelling, going places, and realising, no, everything this newspaper told me was absolutely wrong about these things. Food. We've got a chicken satay curry, a WTF pizza with a base of cheese, nuts and eggs, which is better nutritionally than the usual grain-based option. I suspect grain as a health food is going to make a comeback at some point in the future, as most traditional foods do, because there's a reason they became traditional foods, and even if there wasn't a good reason, our bodies have actually adapted to foods we've been eating for 10,000 years. Jonathan LaPaglia has health lessons for us. Don't care. I mean, seriously, celebrity health lessons. They've got loads of time to exercise. They've got loads of money to buy good food. They've got time to cook that food. Compared to people running between multiple jobs and trying to get kids fed, it's not really very helpful, is it? Oh, you know, here's the lifestyle you could be leading. You had heaps of fucking, excuse my language, time and money, but ha ha ha, you don't, so get over yourself, fatty. Speaking as a fellow fatty, time poor. Well, here's an impenetrable headline. Bozza knew Ollie and Lamps would shine as gaffers. Something to do with soccer. I'm not reading it. Alright, Jessica O'Halloran had almost a page at the start of the paper to talk about Sally Pearson. Now she's got on a whole page to talk about Sally Pearson. Great work, Sally Pearson's PR people. The snitch, Roxy chucks a hessy fit. Sydney PR queen Roxy Jacenko has issued an ultimatum to the currency trader she accused of vandalising her office. Pay the bill for my lawyers and agree to a gagging order. I will launch another court case against you. That sounds a little vindictive and a misuse of the courts to me. New details have emerged into the illegal backyard business dealings conducted by a 21-year-old daughter of a Sydney barrister. Genevieve Horsley, who recently pleaded guilty to drug supply, was living in her parents' palatial inner west home when she was caught plying her trade in the back laneway. She's a bit dumb, isn't she? Must have been a very small fish if she was still living with the folks as well. So we're on to the world news, with news that the International Monetary Fund has backed China and delivered a slap to America by claiming it has seen little evidence that China's central bank has deliberately reduced the value of the nation's currency. It does somewhat follow that if Donald Trump is slapping tariffs on China, that would actually reduce the value of China's currency. Did the president think that through? So, world news, something about a panda, Belgian zoo. Oh, twin baby pandas. Well done, panda news for world news. Fake princess heist. Right, jewellery valued at €1.6 million has been stolen by a woman pretending to be a princess from the United Arab Emirates. That is a good scam. I salute you. So there's a rapper in video falling off the stage. That's world news. So the baby... Talking about the shootings in the US with the most superficial coverage possible. Bear falls on cop car. Flood toll is on rise. This is in India. Flash floods and mudslides. Gay penguins to be dads. 2 homosexual emperor penguins at Berlin Zoo are preparing for the pat of tiny feet after zoo staff gave them an egg to adopt last month. So finally, some actual news in world news. Kim's missile message. North Korea has fired more short-range ballistic missiles into the sea. Trump says everything's fine. Fuel tanker has exploded in Tanzania. Europe is awash in refugee boats. Right, Amazon sorry for child labour. Remember, News Limited hates the internet. Amazon has pledged to investigate shocking claims of children being used and abused at its factories in China. So this is the manufacturer Foxconn, which is not just Amazon's manufacturer. It's using student interns aged 16 and older. They're not allowed to work overtime or night shifts, though, so that's something. Peter Credlin, here we go. Peter Credlin is firing up a series of straw men. Now that Premier Gladys Berejiklian has rammed Australia's most radical abortion laws through the New South Wales law, what's next for the New South Wales Liberal government? Is it assisted suicide? Is it genderless birth certificates? Or is it something else stitched up with left-wing independent Alex Greenwich, who seems to have an uncanny hold over the Premier? Hope so. That'd be great. All of it. Maybe some drug law reform while we're at it. Maybe do something for the homeless. Maybe do something on the environment. Peter will be against it all. Thumbs up from Peter. Andrew Hastie for his crazy and historically very wrong comments conflating the rise of China with the rise of Nazi Germany. For example, China doesn't do too much to people overseas. Yes, you can question how it governs internally. I got questions about how we govern internally here in Australia as well. Chinese have questions about that too. But compared to the blood-soaked history of American international intervention throughout the world in the years since World War II, let's not even get into the banana wars. Is China the evil empire? I think you've got to look at the evidence and actually ask that. Thumbs down to Scott Morrison. Ooh. Apparently the quiet Australians, by which she means Peter, who doesn't seem that quiet to me, don't like that you're too quiet on things that matter to the social and cultural fabric of this country, whether you're responsible or not. Leaders have to lead. There you go, Scott, you got your orders. Peter also says the gender agenda is crazy. Have you ever wondered why so much that we once took for granted is now under severe challenge? Well, that's because that stuff was killing people and was awful. And we're trying to do better, Peter, but you're not. You're just trying to make everything worse. And she couldn't fill up a whole page, so Peter Gleason's in here. Some of my best friends are English. A noble race, he says. Wow, we're ranking the races, are we? And the English are a good one. Most have a great sense of humour. The thick kid at the back of the class, Peter Gleason, has noticed that the English laugh about things, but we've beaten them at the cricket, so ha! Opinion, Annika Smethurst is noting that Labor's in the doldrums and a bit sad. Piers Ackerman says we don't know it, but China has already declared war on the West. Oh, Mike... He's all in favour of Mike Pompeo's important message to us, you know, the racist one about the pile of soybeans. The West. There is no the West. That's not what I've got to. There's no the society. In international affairs, they're just aligning interests and contending interests. Most of our interests lie with China, who want the stuff we sell, versus America, which sells the same stuff we do. Yeah, beef and grain. Praying for rain isn't enough. The Telegraph is noting that the desalination plant's a good thing now. That's good. How about the solar power and wind power that runs it for free? Just about free. Runs it cheaply. Affordably. Health Hacker has an ex-AFL player talking to us about good health. Someone else with lots of time and money. A few pages of real estate reported on as if it's sport. Page of sex workers, just to show us this is the paper of morality. I know I'm not actually opposed to sex workers. I just love that a paper that goes on about false dichotomies of morality all the frickin' time and creates conflict on this subject, still willing to take the money. Rich old white people have gotten married. Movies. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood gets 3.5 stars. Someone's a Tarantino fan. Danger Close, Battle of Longtan, 3 stars. So, we got some book suggestions from Duncan Lay, which oddly enough includes reading the Song of Ice and Fire, the Game of Thrones books. This Duncan Lay just can't get enough of Westeros. Oh, another story from Duncan Lay, starting with Game of Thrones. It's an Australian fantasy author, Jay Christoph. I don't know, I haven't read his stuff. I have no reason to dislike him. He looks a nice brooding picture of him. Whoa. Hope he's good. But it's not a good start when the reviewers have to talk about Game of Thrones before they talk about your book, is it? Here's something people actually like. Here's his stuff. Hopefully they're somewhat conflated. So Duncan Lay's having a go at Kanye West's efforts to help the homeless with geodesic domes. He keeps using the word no doubt to talk about Duncan Lay's fantasies of shoe racks and the fact the domes look like a Kardashian buttock, so a lot of sexual projection from Duncan Lay there. Oh dear. So apparently Kanye's plans to house homeless people is reaching opposition from the neighbours who don't want homeless people around. Reminds me a bit about how the Orange people filled their numbers by giving homes to homeless people. God forbid the homeless people got looked after just once for a little while. Doesn't seem to be any actual news in there, just snark about a well-intentioned if. It's literally the only mention of the homeless in this paper is having a go at someone trying to do something good, even if they're Kanye West and it's going to be a freaking disaster. I'm with them on that, but I think if you're going to have a go at some of that, you need to do more first. 2 pages on the fact Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt are in this Tarantino movie. Ian Gerrard is a Blue Mountains marketing director who is rolling the dice in a high-stakes gamble few would be prepared to take. Gerrard mortgaged his home for $450,000 to fund his own musical about the Gallipoli legend of Simpson and his donkey. The show, 3 weeks in spring, opens on Tuesday night at the State Theatre. Mortgaging your house for vanity. Yeah. The whole point about producing shows is other people's money, you know, and if no one else is willing to finance it, that's a clue. And when your only idea for your musical is them Anzac legends, I'm not saying we shouldn't tell stories about our Anzac legends, I'm just... I'd be nervous if I was the bank. Annette Sharp is noticing that her 15-year-old daughter can read the newspaper and wants to know why they're discussing abortion. The Catholic church school she sent the daughter to, the priests are unhappy. Life's too short to get down in the weeds of that. I can't trust reality TV anymore. Great. The Duchess of Cambridge is being described as a royal rebel. She is not. Alright. So, once again, it's the important... Once again, the important issues are not tackled. Once again, trivia is put forward to distract you with some just nasty inherent racism, like the noble race of the English, as opposed to those other lesser races. He wouldn't even know that, and he'd get angry if you called him on it. And Duncan, is it Duncan? No, it was Peter Gleeson. No, not Peter Gleeson. Someone. Who cares? Racists. Running the major papers, and then they'll say, "Oh, there's no racism in Australia," and it's like, but the paper is just chock full of inherent, not even veiled, and that's before we even start talking about, you know, the corrosive effects of privilege and inherent biases. It's all very upsetting. Anyway. On that note, we've got the worst out of the way. I hope you all have a good week. Thank you very much if you've made it this far. And we'll be back next week to make sure you don't have to read that garbage. But you can still know what the bogans are thinking. All right. Cheers, folks. Old bogans. It's the old bogans you got to watch.